Oh god, this is the worst time to have to burp. I'm Aiden Madison. Welcome back to the Lore Lodge.
Well done. I'm proud of you.
We actually didn't have technical difficulties this time, assuming everything's currently working.
That's the bold assumption.
Assuming
that
they
we have
can, in fact, hear us right now, we
Yeah.
don't have any technical difficulties, which is wonderful.
It's always nice when we can avoid problems.
Yeah, I feel like that's becoming even more common. It's nice. I don't know, maybe we've actually figured out what we're doing. What? All right. So, Ian, what are we talking about today?
That's a question I was going to ask you.
Why do you not? Oh my god. So, we're going to be talking about the case of Jim McGrogan. He is a man who went missing in 2014 under, once again, circumstances that honestly do not make any sense. And I told the whole story earlier because we were shooting a recorded version of it. And were you as confused as I was?
Yes.
It is very strange. And so we're going to get through, we're going to tell that story. We're going to talk about some really cool archaeology, that a story that is fairly recent. It's not brand new, but at the very least, I personally am very excited about it. It was 24th of March that this story came out. But about some ancient Hebrew texts that were found in Israel that date to 1200 BC, which is 600 years earlier than the previous oldest that we thought we had written Hebrew. So that's really cool.
And would you like to share the implication that has?
Oh, we'll share the implication that has. And Archie is milling about behind me. I don't think he's visible. Oh, he is. He's slightly visible. But yeah, so welcome back to the Lore Lodge. We are vibing. We are having good times. We had some ramen.
Oh,
What?
Can you make that live so I can see it?
I mean, it won't be live. It'll be like half live. But here, I'll give you that, and then
that's
I'll
even
take
better.
See, this is what all of this is at this point. Is we're just like okay, there we go. So now I can actually read what's going on.
Nice.
So, to get into this first bit of information, the disappearance of Dr. James McGrogan. Jim here was a avid hiker, outdoorsman, snowboarder, in great shape, 39-year-old medical doctor from Indiana, or he was living in Indiana at the time. Planned a boys' trip with the guys to Vail, Colorado, which, for those of you who don't know, Vail is a very, very, very popular skiing destination, snowboarding destination, hiking destination for people who are into outdoor winter sports. It's, probably one of the most famous skiing areas in the world.
Yeah, definitely in America.
Yeah, definitely in the United States.
Yeah.
It is also in Colorado, which is the state that has the highest fatality rate from avalanches in the United States.
Unfortunate.
Which I don't know if that's just because so many people ski there.
Probably. That's probably a pretty strong correlation.
It could easily be the ice cream correlates to shark attacks argument, where
because people are in the water on hot days.
People are in the water in the summer. Yeah. So, but to get into this, so part of the reason that this is a missing 411 case and not just a weird disappearance is in fact the search attempt. It's not so much that he died. It's not so much that he was found. It's the actual disappearance itself that's very weird about this one. The rest of it's weird, but that's the part that is particularly weird. Also, Kat says she's jealous of the ramen. You should be.
It was good.
It was delicious.
I was heavily craving it, so I was kind of in
I introduced him to Uncommon Ramen. Shout out to Uncommon Ramen for any nearby people. If you are near Phoenixville, Pennsylvania, check it out. They are phenomenal. Also, want to give a shout out to our follower Matthew. I am blanking on his last name. But the owner of Tableau Roasting Company, who sent us a whole bunch of coffee to try. We've tried one of them so far. We're going to work our way through the rest.
What was the one that we tried?
The Timor. Right. Yeah. Oh my God, it was fantastic.
Yeah,
Thank
I
you so
much
much.
Enjoyed that.
So we're going to work our way through those. But yeah, so Vail, Colorado, about 8,150 feet in elevation, is in White River National Forest. I want to point that out because what do we always say about national parks?
Well,
So, yeah, in White River National Forest, 8,100 feet of elevation, and the trail they were taking was to Eisenman Peak, Eisenman Hut, which is a 9-mile trail from the trailhead, and they were headed past that, actually, to a place called Camp Hale. Now, the trail itself is pretty decently forested, not too thickly, not so thickly that, like, you wouldn't be able to see anything from the top. Also, it's coniferous trees, not deciduous, so they're not as sprawling out. So it's kind of like, yeah, a view would be obscured, but it wouldn't be impossible to see somebody.
Becca, we have a better shot of having Christ himself on this show than Mattis checking the P.O. box.
That did, in fact, come here. I have it set up to forward here. I don't know if it is.
Oh.
Yeah, so, and I do want to point out, between the trailhead and the hut itself that they were traveling to is an elevation change of about 3,000 feet. You're going from 8,150 to 11,233. So we're hitting missing 411 points already here. We've got elevation change, we've got national forest. We're already starting to get into the stuff that makes this a missing 411 case. Now, the weather on March 14th, 2014, at 8:30 a.m. when they set off on their hike, which, by the way, cannot imagine hiking at 8:30 in the morning. I would hate that.
Well, I mean,
I know that, like I get it, but, like, I hate the morning.
Valid. I mean, same. But, well, when it's a nice morning, when you're already up, it's nice. But, like, if you have to be up at a certain time, it's tough.
I don't like waking up early.
Yeah.
So when the trip started at 8:30 a.m., it was 30 degrees with some cloud cover and a gentle 6-mile-per-hour easterly breeze. So, just a pleasant, nice evening, a nice afternoon. Well, nice morning, I guess. So they hiked for about an hour and a half, and they covered about 4 miles in that time, which is indicative that this was a crew of hikers who were actually experienced and in good shape.
Yeah.
For those who aren't aware, 3 miles per hour is your average walking speed on flat ground. So for them to be going 3 miles per hour on an incline going up 3,000 feet in just 9 miles.
With, I would assume, pretty well-stocked packs.
Yeah, exactly. They all were carrying, well, at the very least, we know that that Jim was carrying a backpack and his split snowboard, as well as in the backpack he had a first aid kit, he had warm clothes, he had food, he had water, he had a GPS, an avalanche beacon, and a cell phone, and possibly even more stuff in there.
So he was stocked.
He was, like, ready to go.
Yeah.
But that means that, this is a guy who's in magnificent shape. If at 10 a.m., everyone else who just made it 4 miles in an hour and a half up a mountain wants to take a rest, and he wanted to keep going. And this actually pissed off his friends because they wanted to go, they wanted to stick together.
Yeah.
And they were like, come on, man, can't you just wait? He really wanted to keep going for kind of inexplicable reasons. It's important at this juncture to note that the evening that at 8:30 a.m. he had sent his wife a text with a picture of him and the guys that said the adventure begins. She would never hear from him again after that. But there is no indication that any of his friends had a motivation to kill him.
Yeah.
Also, considering they were all together, it can't have been that just one wanted to do something to him. If there were an attempt to hurt Jim, it would have been all of them.
And remind me what time it was that they wanted to stop and he wanted 10. To keep going.
It would have been an hour and a half.
Okay.
Which, covering 4 miles uphill in an hour and a half is intense. That's hard.
Especially depending on how steep it is. Yeah.
We go to Valley Forge and go hiking sometimes, and it's, we don't cover 4 miles in an hour and a half. No. So, at 10 a.m. when he also there was no evidence that he had any intentions of hurting himself. From what everyone said, he was a great guy. Everyone loved him. He was a happy guy. Had no interest in harming himself.
Yeah.
So just to get that out of the way, there was no indication. So at 10 a.m., the time of the separation, temperature in Vail, by the way, I don't know how much it was. I couldn't get distinct readings for various points on the mountain, but you can assume every 1,000 feet you're going to drop like 5 degrees.
I believe it's every 100 feet's about a degree.
Really?
I think so. That's what I was told at one point. Let me check.
Yeah, look it up. But yeah, it's going to drop. The temperature's going to drop quickly. But it was 27 degrees Fahrenheit in Vail, and it was snowing pretty heavily at 10 a.m. This is information that, by the way, I want to point out, this case, I did not use a single outside source except for I got the chronology from Strange Outdoors. But everything else, I looked up news reports and weather reports and all that. We actually did the research ourselves rather than taking any of the information from other people, because we've had some instances where people have pointed out inaccuracies. And I wanted to make sure that I went through and actually did the research and made sure that we got everything. So everything you're getting here is not from the Missing 411 books. It's not from Mr. Ballin video. This is the information from the sources, from the news sources and from the weather reports.
The consensus seems to generally be, depending on the humidity, if it's a dry day, it'll be about 5.5.
Moist day.
Yeah, so on a dry day, it's about 5.5 degrees Fahrenheit per 1,000 feet. On a more humid day, it's more of 3.5.
Okay, so yeah, it was between 3 and 5 probably. Yeah. So at this point, probably looking at closer to like 22 degrees.
Okay.
Which again, they were well dressed. They were smart guys.
Yeah.
This was not going to be an issue for them. But it was snowing heavily when he walked off. But at the same time, it's important to note that this is in the mountains of Colorado. There were 3 to 5 feet of snow on the ground off the trail. The trail itself was compacted, hard, pressed down snow from people walking on it constantly.
Yeah.
But if you were to go off the trail, you would immediately be in waist deep snow. So if someone were to leave the trail, you would notice.
Yeah.
So 10 a.m. is the last time. 10 a.m. on March 14th, 2014 is the last time anyone saw Jim McGrogan. Nobody else on the way up reported seeing him.
Yeah.
Which will be important later, because as we talked about in the recorded version, there is no explanation. So he works his way up, leaves everybody behind. So, sorry, I'm like trying to read without my glasses.
You're good.
So,
you want me to really go get him?
No, it's fine. It continued to snow lightly until 9:30 p.m. that night, but the exact accumulation of snow I couldn't find. I couldn't find the exact numbers there, but we can probably assume it was reasonably, a foot to 18 inches.
Yeah.
But again, a foot to 18 inches is not enough to cover tracks in 3 foot deep snow. It simply would not. That would still be visible, especially from the sky. So the group hiked, further up the mountain, and they got to their next planned rest stop. Jim was not there. So what they assumed was, all right, you know what? He probably just kept going. He's probably going to be up at Eisman Hut. Not a big deal. We'll run into him there. They spent the rest of the day at a pretty leisurely pace getting up the mountain. My guess, based on how long it took them to get that first 4 miles versus the fact that after 10 a.m., it took them another 6 to 7 hours to actually get to the peak. I'm guessing the reason that they were having issues is because Jim was moving much faster, and they were probably moving much slower. So he was probably pushing them, which is why it probably took so long.
Yeah.
If Jim was going at that pace, he would have reached the hut by noon. So the fact that they got up there around 4 or 5 p.m., didn't see him anywhere, and then alerted the authorities at 5:30, there's a 7-hour period during which he could have gone missing.
Yeah.
But we can assume if he had kept up his pace, he would have been there no later than 1. So he went missing sometime. He disappeared from that trail, most likely, sometime between 10 a.m. and 1 p.m. It is, of course, possible he decided to slow down later on, and it could have taken him. He could have been on that trail at 2, 3 o'clock in the afternoon, but it doesn't seem likely given everything else. And again, to reiterate, for anybody who just joined, Jim, very good shape, avid outdoorsman, avid snowboarder, was carrying GPS, first aid kit, sleeping bag, avalanche beacon, cell phone. I read one report that said he had spare batteries, food, water, and clothes. For those who don't know, an avalanche beacon is a 2-way transponder that when you activate yours, it starts to pick up other people's. So they're constantly actually operating, but only once you activate yours to find somebody else's do you actually start hearing anything and getting a signal.
Got it.
So they're constantly active, but you only start to pick up on other people's when you turn yours on, from what I understand.
Got it.
Not quite the same thing as, for example, firefighters will have a device that starts to beep when they've been motionless for too long.
Yep.
which there's some pretty haunting footage from 9/11 of just the beeping of dozens of these things.
Yeah, I can't remember what it's called specifically, but so for context, I wanted to do volunteer firefighting for a period of time, and I still want to. It's just a matter of my time commitment when I can actually have the opportunity to do that. It's 30 seconds. Like, if you don't move for 30 seconds, you have to wiggle your butt because it's positioned right on your lower back. So it's like, at least in terms of that, because when you're in a firefighting scenario, generally if you're going into a structure fire, it is like, even despite fire being very bright, the smoke almost always blinds everything immediately. You can't see anything in front of your face. They train you with the type of visors that Luke does with the Star Wars in Episode 4. And if you even just in training scenarios, they put that on you, because if you're there's training videos of people just going through confined spaces with blind things, and it's like their beeper starts going off even if they're moving very minimally, and they are immediately told don't forget to wiggle, because in those scenarios, when you hear that, you have to assume if you hear it for more than a couple seconds, someone's down and you need to find them and get them out of there.
So transponder, kind of the same. These avalanche beacons, same idea, but you got to turn yours on to actually start getting the feedback.
Yeah.
And they're, interestingly, I did find out while I was researching these that the most high end versions of these that they have are actually capable of having the data for specific stuff. This is a woman, this height, this name, and they, as a practice, don't do that to prevent people from prioritizing based on familiarity during searches. So the example I saw was if a guy is hiking with his wife and they meet another couple on the way and all of them have beacons, all of them will anonymize everything so that that person doesn't say their wife is further away, but the two other people are closer. The rational decision, if you have anonymized data, is to go and pick up the two people who are closer. Yeah. And save the person who's farther for later, because you're more likely to be able to save those two. Yeah. So if the one that's farther is your wife and the other two are the strangers, if you know it's your wife, you're going to help her, which means that you could be saving one life at the cost of two rather than saving two at the cost of one.
So it's just eliminating even the chance for bias.
And if you are the kind of person who wouldn't do that, and you're like, well, they're closer, I'm going to save them first, then you would live with the knowledge that you killed your wife. So as a practice, they don't anonymize the data because it keeps everybody in the most rational position. So moving on from that,
the pass device. Sorry.
Yeah. So nobody. So the one thing that was reported in basically every story that I read was that when Jim first went missing, nobody was super concerned because of how fit he was and how much gear he had. They were just kind of like, all right, he probably wandered off. It's not a big deal. We're still going to look, but it's probably fine. They launched the search at 5:30 p.m. Search was led by the Eagle County Sheriff's Department in conjunction with local search and rescue and also the National Guard. So National Guard actually has a high-altitude training center up near Vail.
That makes sense.
And that includes pilots who are trained for search and rescue, helicopter pilots.
Yeah. So with the frequency of avalanches that you mentioned up there, it doesn't surprise me that that's the case. Yeah, it makes complete
sense. Yeah. So this is actually a National Guard training station for exactly this.
Yeah.
So they had multiple helicopters. I know it was at least two. It might have been more. But at least two helicopters searching an 18 square mile area from the air. They also had snowmobile teams, dog teams, and a total of 110 search and rescue people throughout the different teams.
Yeah.
These people searched this 18 square mile area for 5 days. And of course, they started on March 14th, on the evening of March 14th, they started by just walking up and down the trail, looking for any tracks that indicated that somebody left.
Yeah.
But they said, and they were pretty damn certain about this, they could not find any tracks leading off the trail. There was no sign that anyone had gone anywhere.
Yeah.
So they started to expand the search. They started to look elsewhere. They started to branch out from the immediacy of the trail.
Yeah.
Which, of course, was the rational thing to do, to start with the trail. But no evidence of somebody leaving the trail. So they started searching further out. And just he was a doctor. They figured, even if he is hurt, he probably knows how to fix himself up. And he's got a fully charged cell phone and a GPS and an avalanche beacon.
Yeah.
By the way, no avalanches were reported during the search time.
Very important.
There were no avalanches anywhere near the trail during the search. So it can't have been an avalanche that got him.
Mm-hmm.
So they figured, all right, if he's really in trouble, he'll call for help. There was cell reception. He had his phone. You know, if he was in a state of, if he was not like severely injured, he had both the training to keep himself alive, the supplies, and a phone to call for help. He didn't. So the lack of a distress signal may have actually delayed some of the more intense search efforts in this case.
Yeah.
So, from March 14th to March 18th, helicopters, dogs, snowmobiles, and foot teams searched the area around the trail. Snow did not indicate that anyone had left the trail or had skied or snowboarded off the trail. There was no snowboard tracks either.
See, that was something that I was formulating in my head. Is like, my thought was depending on where he was found, maybe he wanted to go ahead so that way he could snowboard back down to meet his friends later.
But they were planning a camping trip. They were going to be up there for a few days. It was not planned for them to go up and snowboard down.
No, but my point being is like that morning when he was like, I'll keep going, maybe in his mind he was saying, I'll just hop off, snowboard down, and meet them on the trail later or something.
I guess that's possible.
Potential, yeah.
Yeah, and it was cross-country snowboarding. It was a split snowboard for that purpose. He wasn't like, you know. And the weather during the 5 days of the search was mostly cloudy or sunny throughout, and it snowed lightly a couple of times, but I didn't find any evidence of like super heavy snowfall until March 18th. March 18th, it snowed, I think it was some ridiculous, like 18 to 24 inches.
And remind
just dumped it.
When was the initial trip?
March 14th.
March 14th, got it.
So for 5 days, they heard nothing from him. Nothing at all. And yes, to answer Becca's question that I just saw, if the avalanche beacon isn't activated, you can still track it. It is the one that's... you activate yours to find others. From what I understand, again, I could be wrong about that.
Got it.
Snow safety is not my forte, but my understanding is that if somebody is working and active, you can find them. It might be that you have to be like within a certain. My guess is you got to be within a certain distance, but it is weird that they didn't find him using that. So I don't know. Maybe his was off. But I didn't find any information on that part specifically, so I don't want to speak on it. Over the course of this 5 days, again, 110 searchers, helicopters, dogs, snowmobiles, nothing. So that's another missing 411 point, by the way. The dogs could not pick up a scent. For about 20 days, he was just presumed dead because they had no other explanation. Yeah. He hadn't been seen. They got up to the top. There were no tracks leaving from the top. There was no evidence that somebody had snowed from the top. It seems like he did not make it up to the hut. He might have, but there's no evidence that he did. But at the same time, there's no evidence he left the trail. On April 3rd, 2014, Dr. McGrogan's body was discovered by some backcountry skiers near Booth Falls, about 4.5 miles by air from where he had disappeared from the trail. It is important to notice that Booth Falls is not the location. There is a fall of significant height, but it is not where his body was found. It was found beneath the falls, but it was found beneath the falls as in below them on the mountain. It wasn't directly beneath them. So he was far enough away that it didn't seem like he had fallen.
Sorry, strike back and reverse like 2 sentences. I was checking to see how exactly the beacons work.
Oh, okay. Yeah, so where he was found beneath Booth's Falls, but he wasn't actually like at the bottom. It didn't look like he just fallen down.
Yeah.
It looked like he was further away.
Got it.
And since it wasn't liquid, he can't have been carried by the current.
Yeah.
It was frozen. And on the day he was found, it was actually 18 degrees. So there is, at no point during this trip...
Was it above freezing? Got it.
And you gotta remember, we're up in the mountains.
Yeah.
So even if it were above freezing, it would still be...
Very cold.
Very cold.
Yeah.
He was found at about 9,600 feet. So about 1,500 feet in elevation change from where he went missing. He was missing his boots, he was missing his gloves and his coat, but he was still wearing his helmet. That is another point, by the way. Another profile point. Missing clothes. So, His snowboard was nearby, but without his boots, he could not have been using it.
Mm-hmm.
His backpack still had his cell phone, still had his GPS, and still had his avalanche beacon. Now, again, I don't know exactly what model of avalanche beacon he was carrying.
Mm-hmm. Also, just in terms of like some context clues for avalanche beacons, it seems as though the range for most of them only works about between 40 to 80 meters.
Yeah.
And what it does is it sends out a beep, which when you turn yours on to receive, yours then beeps.
And it beeps louder and louder as you get closer.
As you get closer to the person, yeah.
So that would explain why, is that they would have to be within 100 yards of him.
Yeah.
And just the likelihood of an 18 square mile search with only 110 people that you're
Exactly.
ever going to be within 100 yards.
And apparently...
Unless you find them.
Apparently the battery life on them is only like 250 hours in send.
Mm-hmm.
So it's and receive is like 50 hours. So, yeah.
If that.
Yeah.
All right. So, where were we, though?
If you found that close.
So there's no reason, based on what they found, there's no reason to believe that his cell phone was not working when he went missing.
Mm-hmm.
It was working, but I think it was dead.
Got it.
I couldn't find confirmation either way, but he didn't use it. So, again, we're 20 days from the end of the search.
Yeah.
So we are 25 days from when he went missing. His cell phone had no indication that it was broken or that it was dead when he... Because it was working at 8:30 a.m.
Yeah.
Which means that it was probably working for the rest of the day, especially if he wasn't on it, if he was just hiking.
Yeah.
Now, cell phone use would explain why he didn't have his gloves on, but it doesn't explain the lack of a coat or the lack of boots.
Yeah.
And he didn't use the cell phone. There's no record of him placing any calls or sending any texts, and that's from like the provider side.
Yeah.
They checked with the phone provider, not just on the phone. There was no evidence that he had used the phone.
Do we know the low temperature that it got to at those times?
I mean, during the day?
During the night.
During the night, it's cold.
Yeah.
Like 0 degrees.
Yeah. Because my only thought would be if he for some reason went off trail, and then couldn't find his way back, didn't go to the cabin, the undressing could have been paradoxical undressing from hypothermia.
But it would not take him more than 5 days to go hypothermic.
Yeah. And also, like... If he went off the trail and couldn't find his way back, why wouldn't he?
Why wouldn't he place a call?
Yeah.
Also, I want to point out, he could see Vail this entire time. From
another very interesting point.
So it's a lot like the Aaron Hedges one.
Yeah.
There's the one part of the Aaron Hedges case where he sits down on a rock overlooking Sweetwater Ranch and or Sweetgrass Ranch? Sweetgrass, I think.
I think so, yeah.
Where he's overlooking Sweetgrass Ranch, just drinking out of a thermos and never went looking for help. It's the same thing here, where if James was conscious and thinking clearly, then there's no reason that he would not call for help, or at least not walk for help.
Yeah.
And then there is the case of how his body was found. I also want to point out that where he was found was searched before this. Like,
again,
in the first, I think it was on like the second or third day of the search, they covered this area.
Yeah.
It was only 4 miles. Of course, it was 12 to 14 on foot, but the helicopters absolutely searched the area.
Yeah.
So they didn't find a body there.
What was the foliage coverage like in the area?
Where he was found?
Yeah.
Some, but not to the extent that you wouldn't be able to see tracks.
Got it.
Or a body.
Yeah.
And you gotta remember, these are guys who are trained for this.
Yeah, oh, for sure. I'm just curious in terms of like spotting from a helicopter, how like, hard or easy was it?
Mm-hmm. But what this suggests is that he was alive during the first 5 days of the search.
Yeah.
Which means why didn't he call for help?
Yeah.
Now, when they did the autopsy on his body, they found that he had sustained head trauma, a broken femur, and broken ribs, as well as some internal injuries, which are consistent with falling from a great height.
Got it.
I think the number I remember hearing was like 70 feet minimum. But he can't have fallen. He wasn't in a position where he could have fallen. The falls were there, but they weren't close enough that it was like he had just fallen over. Also, how would he accidentally fall off of a frozen waterfall?
Unless he started at the top for some reason and...
Yeah. There's no reasoning. And somebody in the chat did just say it sounds like intentional suicide, but there were no signs that he was mentally unstable or unwell or considering suicide.
And I mean,
this was a trip that had been planned for over a year.
Yeah, and this is this is probably a little outside of our pay grade at the moment. But were there any like life troubles going on, or
not that I'm aware of?
Yeah,
there was essentially no, and part of the missing 411, like the way that they decide which cases to cover is they look into, was there any sign that this was foul play or intentional self-harm?
Yeah.
They didn't find anything. Of course, as I said, we didn't use missing 411 for this one because I wanted to do the research myself.
Yeah.
But no, there is no indication from anything that he had intentions of harming himself, nor that any of his friends had intentions of harming him. So, where was I with my notes?
The broken femur and the head trauma, things like that.
Yeah. Also, by the time he was found, there were 8 feet of snow on the ground in some places that he would have had to traverse. So it's almost entirely impossible that he could make first of all, that he could make his way through 8 feet of snow.
Yeah.
But also that he could make his way through 8 feet of snow without leaving tracks.
Yeah, the fact that there were no tracks whatsoever is just weird.
Yeah. So that's, the autopsy, they ruled it an accident.
I mean, it's just a weird... Because let's say, hypothetically, he fell from the falls. Mm-hmm. Why would he go... I mean, unless the man wanted a really, cool picture of himself at the top of
that
some
he
ice
took
falls.
Alone after deliberately going missing for 5 days?
Yeah, it just doesn't make sense.
No, it doesn't.
There has to have been something else that occurred prior to that for that to make sense.
Also, he can't possibly have survived the weather.
No.
For that long.
No.
He didn't have enough food for 25 days. He did not have enough clothes for 25 days. And it was getting down to 0 degrees every night. There's absolutely no way that this could possibly have that he could have gone that far. You know?
And why would he not have contacted any of his party at all?
Exactly. There's no rational explanation there.
No.
And in order for his body to be where it was, after them searching that area, I think on the 3rd day, the chance that he could feasibly have survived 3 days, let alone 25, is pretty low. He would have called for help if he was in the right state of mind, which implies one of 2 things. Either he was delirious and not thinking straight.
Which the question is, what caused the delirium?
What caused it? We're not in a place where he could have accidentally eaten a mushroom or some berries.
Unless he really went digging.
Yeah, you're not in the winter in Vail, Colorado, on the side of a mountain. You're not going to accidentally eat anything psychoactive
when there's already several feet of snow on the ground.
Yeah, and you also aren't going to be delirious and not leave tracks.
Yeah.
So even if that's the thing here. We'll get back to it, but ignoring the part where there were no tracks, he would have had to either be not thinking clearly, or he would have had to be unconscious.
Yeah.
You can't move while you're unconscious.
Correct.
You leave tracks while you're delirious.
Yes.
So it's almost certain, from the details of the case, that he was taken somewhere. How did they not leave tracks is, of course, the biggest question here, because if you think about it, the only way it could have been something that didn't leave tracks is if it's something that can fly or something that can move exclusively through trees.
Yeah.
Something that's going to snatch you off the ground, pull you into a tree, and then travel with you.
And, I mean, eagles are big, but they're not that big.
Yeah, there are some birds that are big enough to carry a grown man, but...
What birds?
Eagles. Certain eagles. Look it up. There are eagles that can carry a grown man. Dude, eagles are bigger than you think they are.
I've seen eagles in person.
I'm not talking about bald eagles. Bald eagles are not the biggest eagles out there.
They're
Also, you see them in person, but they're at the zoo, and you don't realize how big they are up close. They are terrifying. They are massive creatures. You find it?
I'm looking
up eagles.
Yeah, in North America, a bald eagle may be able to carry up to 7 or 8 pounds if conditions are ideal. But even the most largest of eagles in the world will not be able to carry more than 10 to 12 pounds.
I don't know about that one. I've definitely heard it.
That's what.
If a hawk can pick Archie up,
That's what forestwildlife.org says.
I don't believe that.
So, also, who says a hawk can pick Archie up?
I'm looking it up.
Like, yeah, eagles are big, but they're not that big.
I've heard that they can pick up, like, dogs. I don't know, maybe I'm wrong. It's possible. But then it confounds it even more, because then it couldn't have even been a bird.
Yeah, exactly,
like,
yeah.
The pterodactyl out here kidnapping people.
Yeah, apparently the greatest weight this is on Quora, but apparently the greatest weight carrying capacity record is in the name of a bald eagle by lifting a 15-pound mule deer. Bald eagles generally weigh between 4 to 6.
15-pound mule deer are they?
I don't know.
Mule deer are bigger than that. Was that a baby?
Might have been.
All right, we're off track.
Yeah, we are.
But yeah, so point is, unless some sort of gigantic bird we've never ever found, apparently, can lift up a grown man, an adult, like, man, carrying his backpack, because he was found with his bag.
Yeah.
Then it can't have been a bird.
No.
That leaves what? Something that swings through the trees?
As far as I'm aware, there's not any native primates.
No.
To the Rockies.
No. There are no primates native to North America.
Nope.
So
that we're aware of.
Yeah, that we're aware of. So that leaves, there's even limited supernatural options.
Yeah.
Yes, History Daddy, there have been suggestions that it was aliens. But there were also...
Hand gesture.
But there were also no UFO sightings.
Yeah.
Usually, there's at least a sighting. Also, usually people who are abducted come back.
Yeah.
So, I don't really know in that case. The theory that holds the most water for me is the dimensional rift. Idea that he, somehow slipped into a separate dimension and ended up somewhere else.
Mm-hmm.
Which obviously is pretty unscientific, but...
Yeah.
Or the Wendigo, I guess? Because that would explain how it was something that could move without leaving tracks.
Yeah. It's a great question.
But yeah, so that's the case. The profile points for Missing 401, this checks off, by the way, are National Park, there is elevation change, sudden weather change, boulders, cave systems, no scent trail, and he was missing clothing. There might be more, but those are the ones that stuck out to me. So...
Naturally.
I don't know. I'm curious. Let me know in the chat what you guys think, because this is another one that I have no explanation for. It's up there with Tom Meskin and Aaron Hedges. I think this one's actually even more confusing than those two, because in this case, if he left the trail at any point, there would have been tracks.
Yeah.
So. That is our first story. I want to quickly get into our second one before we go to questions. So for those of you who are subscribed to Patreon, I wrote a post about this, and I'm going to read it. But if you want to keep up with this, I'm hoping to post some more about these as I kind of dig into the history behind it. But for those who don't know, one of my favorite topics is the historical accuracy of the Bible. Mm-hmm. And just finding times when it is historically accurate and times when it's not, and then reconciling, like, all right, could there be symbolism here? I just find it to be an interesting puzzle to solve.
Yeah, for sure.
For example, there's the basically from Adam leaving the Garden of Eden to today is a little over 6,000 years. Yeah. According to the Bible. Mm-hmm. We're pretty sure that's not how many. Like, we're pretty sure that didn't happen. Yeah, just trying to discover is there symbolism in the numbers? Yeah. Could it be a way of measuring years differently or something like that? So I enjoy looking into that stuff. So for this one, I want to lay the groundwork. It has been believed for a very long time that the oldest written versions of the Bible, the Tanakh, the Torah, all of that, were from like the 600s BC. Yep. We had nothing religious, especially prior to that.
Yeah, at least in terms of Judaism or
in terms of Judaism, yes. So in March, a archaeological team at Mount Ebal in Israel discovered a little tiny tablet. It's about 2 centimeters by 2 centimeters. It's tiny.
Yeah.
But on it is a curse written in ancient Hebrew. And that curse includes the term Yahweh. So it is, according to, this is the Times of Israel, archaeologist Dr. Scott Stripling and a team of international scholars held a press conference on Thursday in Houston, Texas, unveiling what he claims is the earliest proto-alphabetic Hebrew text, including the name of God, Yahweh, ever discovered in ancient Israel. I want to make it clear, the punctuation here is that it is both the earliest proto-alphabetic Hebrew text and has the term Yahweh. It is not the earliest one with the term Yahweh.
Yeah.
It was found at Mount Ebal, a place known in Deuteronomy 11:29 as a place of curses. I have my Bible right here so I can read you Deuteronomy 11:29. And it shall come to pass, when the Lord thy God hath brought thee unto the land whither thou goest to possess it, thou shalt put the blessing upon Gerizim and the curse upon Mount Ebal. So Deuteronomy actually says, and put the curse upon Mount Ebal.
Yeah.
Now, for a long time, that's kind of been viewed as a generalization, like, yes, the curse will be upon Mount Ebal. It seems like they quite literally put the curse on Mount Ebal. Like,
someone
like
did,
they wrote it down and put it there.
Which is kind of
Is
funny,
that what
actually.
they meant? I don't know. But, so, to continue reading from this, if the late Bronze Age, circa 1200 BC, date is verified, this tiny 2 centimeter by 2 centimeter folded lead curse tablet may be one of the greatest archaeological discoveries ever. And I agree, that's obviously editorialism, but I agree with that, because this all but confirms something that I have believed for a little while now.
Which is?
So, traditionally, the dating of Exodus is around 1500, in terms of, like, when the events are said to have happened.
Okay. 1500 BC.
1500 BC.
To clarify, yeah.
In my opinion, that is far too early.
I got the spinning wheel.
It's okay.
I had
So, I think that's far too early for a number of reasons, but the one that really stuck out to me was when I was actually reading Exodus. It is said that the Jews helped build the city of Pi Ramses. Also, it's important that the term enslavement in Egypt is probably not completely accurate. It was probably more like a servant class. It's unclear whether or not... like, the term slave is not used in the Bible for this.
But we were in slavery!
Here's the thing. Today, we would recognize it as slavery.
Yeah.
In Exodus, it's... the term slavery isn't used. Also, widely believed myth that the Jews built the pyramids, that Jewish slaves built the pyramids. That's not true. The timing doesn't line up. The Bible doesn't say they did that. What the Bible does say is that the Jews helped build the city of Pi Ramses, which was built under Ramses II. And Ramses II lived in the 13th century. Which means that the Jews could not possibly have left around 1500 BC. They must have left sometime before 1200, sometime between 1300 and 1200. Now, traditionally, the author of the Torah, the 5 books of the Torah, which are Genesis, Exodus, Numbers, Deuteronomy, and Leviticus, traditionally it's Moses. But a lot of people have argued that it probably wasn't Moses that wrote them down. They're probably just credited to Moses as an orator. As the originator of the tradition. But if that Exodus did occur around 1200 BC, that means that Noah actually could be the person that wrote this down. Because what this proves is that the Jews, if peer review agrees that this is 1200 for dating, this has not been peer reviewed yet because it's only been out for a month and a half. But essentially, this would prove that it was written and that Moses would have lived at a time where he could have been the one writing it down. I know for non-Christians and non-Jews that might not be nearly as exciting.
Yeah.
But just from an archaeological standpoint, I want everybody to understand that this is quite possibly one of the most groundbreaking archaeological discoveries of the century. This would be akin to finding, like, God, this would be akin to finding, you know, a tablet that names Achilles and Patroclus at Troy. Like that's the level of
which. That'd be cool.
Like if you found a grave for Achilles at Troy, that's what this is. Like think how massive that would be for archaeology.
Yeah.
So it's just a really incredible story. It's something that, you know, this is a once in a generation, if not longer, kind of thing. So I just wanted to bring it up because I want to keep people updated for what that means. Also, just some contextual stuff around here. Exodus says that Jacob, Joseph's father, entered into Egypt with 70 souls. So it makes sense that there wouldn't be Egyptian record of the Jews entering Israel. Also, after only 400 years, the Jewish population still wouldn't be that large. Maybe a few thousand. So it makes sense that it wouldn't be recorded with them leaving either. Also, this coincides with the late Bronze Age collapse. So there was enough going on that it's not shocking that the Jews leaving Egypt would not be recorded by the Egyptians, but that it would be a major event for the Jewish people. So this would also prove that the Jews were in Israel as early as 1200 BC. Traditionally, they were there even earlier, went into Egypt, then came out of Egypt. But, you know, I just wanted to bring that one up because I find it fascinating.
I think it's a worthwhile story to tell.
Yeah. So I think with that explained, because I was just excited about it, you know, let's go into let's go take some questions. I'm going to scroll back through and find what has already been sent. But yeah.
Should we give them the rundown for anybody who's not familiar?
Sure. If you are new to the program, we do a 10 to 15 minute question segment at the end of our non-guest segments. When we have guests, they are closer to 30 minutes.
Yep.
And during this, we take questions from the audience. We answer super chats first, and that's basically it. We do have donation goals that we do for fun.
We do.
Food Network episode has been hit for the month of May, so we do have to do an episode of us making dishes.
That would be fun.
The next goal for $500, we will commission and print a fleshy boy. That will be a 3D printed Dungeons and Dragons style minifigure. At $750, I will ingest a Carolina Reaper live on the podcast.
Love it.
And for $1,000, you guys get the sexy calendar, which in order to get that, I've got to become sexy first. So,
what do you mean become?
Or we could just Photoshop me to be hot, I guess.
What do you mean become?
I'm chunky right now. Well, according to all the YouTube and Instagram comments, apparently I've put on weight.
Well,
people keep commenting Harry Potter got chubby, and I'm like, first of all,
I still don't understand the Harry Potter thing.
I don't see it either. I've never seen it. I've been told it my entire life that it looked like Daniel Radcliffe.
I think it's literally...
I'm not even that much younger than Daniel Radcliffe, like maybe a decade.
I don't see it at all.
I don't see it, no. Like, at this age, if I looked like Daniel Radcliffe, I would look like Daniel Radcliffe. I don't look like Daniel Radcliffe.
I'm trying to figure out if there's anybody you do look like that.
Dylan Minnette from 13 Reasons Why. That when 13 Reasons Why came out when we were freshmen in college, I had constant...
He looks like weird...
He looks like 19-year-old Nate.
He looks like a weird blend between you and Lopolito.
That's fair. But to get into the questions we have received so far, Noah Isaac for $2. Thank you. He says, "Yo, my first dono on this channel. Love you guys." Thank you, Noah. We appreciate you as well.
Appreciated.
History Daddy said the aliens thing. Thanks, Ryan.
Yes. Photoshopping your faces on Buff Dudes would be funny. Do you mean like the YouTube channel Buff Dudes, or just like generic Chads?
Someone said we need a shirt of a Wendigo doing the gritty.
Oh God.
I don't know how that would work. I guess we'd have to draw 3 Wendigos or something.
I just want to know why the gritty now all of a sudden is getting like a bunch of like.
I think the Wendigo will be sturdy with it. I had a friend of this is from Flow Cage. I had a friend of a cousin who dated a person whose lawyer represented a Wendigo, whose doctor said that the Wendy stomach biome is too harsh for human diseases to survive.
That's a lot. Also, Beck, there's no way I'm having that Gladiator Superman thing done by the time Sexy Calendar would need to be shot.
Gladiator Superman?
The thing that I showed you. The thing that I sent in the group.
I haven't looked at the group today.
No, not today. Like a week or so ago.
I will have to go look through it.
It's this thing I based it off of Maximus's armor from Gladiator.
Oh, that thing.
Superman
yeah,
thing.
okay, I see what you mean now.
Yeah, there's no way that's going to be done. I feel like it'd be fun for Halloween or whatever we end up doing, but Aiden is sexy chain. I think that's in reference to you because it's from History Daddy.
Oh, good God.
Also, I'm realizing I look like Dyatlov from Chernobyl with my hair right now, and I don't know how to feel about it.
Yeah.
I was watching clips of that this morning.
I don't know if I mentioned it as much as I intended to, but I want to point out when Jim McGrogan was found, he had head trauma. Mm-hmm. He was still wearing his helmet.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
The helmet did not display signs of fall damage, to my knowledge. I might be wrong, but from my understanding, the helmet did not display signs of fall damage.
Yeah. Weird.
Which is very weird. What does that mean? Somebody took the helmet off, hit him in the head, and put it back on, but didn't put back on his shoes, and
or he took the helmet off,
bonked himself,
and was like, maybe I should keep that on.
He took the helmet off, fell 70 feet, and you know what? This is going back on.
Yeah, it's like we don't need to do that a second time. Oh, that's pretty funny.
About the Shadow People video you did a while back. I did we posted the Shadow People video on Friday. What do you mean a while back?
Yeah.
But this is from Katie Arnold. About the Shadow People video you did a while back. I saw him once in my room. The only features I remember him having is that he had bright yellow eyes and a big grin. I didn't sleep in my room for a week.
I mean, yeah, I don't blame you.
I don't like that. I've never heard of the grin before. I'll have to look into that. The more Missing 411 stories I hear, the more I consider the existence of the Thunderbird. Valid point. That's a video I've been meaning to do. Thunderbird's a cool one. I have a book that has all the info about it, too. Let's see. Be careful about talking about Judaism or ancient Hebrew. It may summon Momlennial.
Yeah, that's not great.
She'd actually have to know Hebrew in order for that to happen, and based on the way that she pronounces it, I don't think she does. She's moved on to politics, which
that's a sandbox we don't want to play in.
No, we refuse to do political content on this channel.
Yeah, this is a place where we'd like everybody of all different walks of life to be able to come together and have some common ground
and just enjoy some mysteries and some lore, and not worry about
Let's focus on what we have in common and not what's
today.
Different from us. Yeah.
Although I said goblins weren't Jewish and got called anti-Semitic, so I guess there's no safety.
I was gonna
say even the goblins are politicized.
Why is everything political now?
Okay, let's see what else we have. Who denied a reactor blowing up recently?
What?
Huh?
Where'd you see that?
I feel like I might be missing context.
Have T8. You've denied a reactor blowing up recently. Tech Aiden as Sam. Right.
Heather, what did you mean?
Denied?
Heather, please explain.
I don't understand. Is there a reactor that blew up that
Faces on Sam and Dean, that would be good. Shadow People video reactivated my childhood trauma. Well, no. So as for the issue of the Bible not using the term slavery for the Jews, it would use the term slavery for the Jews, because the Jews were the ones being quote unquote enslaved.
Yeah.
So if it was slavery, they probably would have called it slavery.
Yeah, I mean, I don't see why they wouldn't.
Yeah, the KJV does not translate anything as the term slave. Certain translations will interpret the Hebrew to mean slave. Certain ones will interpret it to mean servant.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody denied that Chernobyl melted down.
Or exploded. That's exactly what happened.
It did explode. That's very true.
It exploded and then it melted down. A lot of things happened to Chernobyl.
Yeah,
like pretty much everything that shouldn't happen at a reactor, specifically a nuclear reactor, happened.
How many things can we do that you shouldn't do?
The 5th episode gives you all of the things that they did that they shouldn't have done.
Oh, I'm sure they did plenty of things they shouldn't have done.
Oh, you'd be amazed.
On the subject of the folded lead on the mountain, I didn't think ancient Jews could be so literal. it does seem very literal, right? Like, and put the curse on Mount Ebal. I just like the idea of, like, Moses being like, and God said to do this, and then being like,
we did it.
when you say put the curse on Mount, like, do you mean, like,
ooh,
say it? Or like, literally, like,
yeah,
write it down and put it up there? And Moses just being like, he wasn't very specific. Like, or let's just do both.
Or just, like, simply, yes.
Exactly. Moses is up there standing with the Ten Commandments, and he's like, yeah.
Yeah. This is all I got. Yeah, also, there of course there was no graphite on the ground.
What about graphite?
Of course, there was simply no graphite on the ground.
I don't understand what that's in reference to.
You didn't see graphite on the ground.
What?
You didn't see graphite because it wasn't there.
What?
Anyway.
But I don't understand what the context was.
It's more Chernobyl.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
But
it was very interesting seeing you like do the mental gymnastics. Like, what did we talk about today that involves graphite?
Yeah, I don't know. Also, Kat said it. Kat wasn't even here.
Yeah.
When he was told the core exploded, he said, "You must be confused. Reactors can't explode."
Oh. Heather's making more Chernobyl references.
But was it you that said?
No. Well, wait, what? When he said the core exploded, I think. Oh. Heather, you're cheeky, and I like it.
I don't get it.
I said earlier that because of my hair today, I look like Dyatlov from Chernobyl. Mm-hmm. They are making both Kat and Heather now, or Heather first, I guess, and then Kat, are making quotes that Dyatlov said in the show and just in real life. Took me a little too long to figure out that that's what you guys were doing. Well, Kat was a little bit more blatant, but Heather, well done. I like that.
Benjamin Smith says, I saw a shadow person in my mother's cousin's house. They smelled of vanilla Cavendish tobacco and were hiding in the closet at the foot of the bed I was sleeping after football practice in high school. I was sleeping in after football practice in high school. Not that it matters, but I don't know if you mean football or soccer when you say that, because some of our viewers are from the UK. And it doesn't really matter, I guess, because it's not the keynote of the story, but that it's bothering me for some reason, but I don't know which one.
Also, I was miming, thank you, History Daddy. I appreciate you appreciating me.
I appreciate your appreciation. But yeah, I mean, if that's it for the questions and the super chats, then I think that's all.
Yep.
For this afternoon.
That's it. That's all.
I would like to.
Lancaster slow claps on you, remembering your own joke. Oh, I'm sorry.
Oh, Archie's here.
Oh, that was.
Come here, buddy. You want to be on camera?
Very well done.
Come here. Come be on camera before we close the show.
Is he not on camera here?
No, I meant like I was gonna pick him up, but I guess he just wants to be over there.
No, he'll come around.
Here.
I'll ignore him. He'll come to you.
Come here.
There we go.
Here we go. Here's your little boy. Okay, we have the boy. We have the boy. Good camera.
Thank you, Cynthia. Much appreciated. Anyone looks like Scott Kahn on God.
Who's Scott Kahn?
It's like way too fitting.
What?
If you watch Hawaii Five-0, you'll know why that's too fitting.
Yeah.
Yeah. but look up Scott Kahn Hawaii Five-0 and go to images.
I just found out that Hawaii Five-0, the one that we watched when we were in high school, is a reboot.
You didn't know that?
I did not know that was a reboot.
Go to images. Let's see how. Oh, scroll down.
Oh, I see it. I definitely see it.
Yeah, no, but it's not. It's there's a piece. Hang on.
No, I get it.
No. There, you don't.
I think I do. Like. Thanks, Cynthia.
There's something that you haven't seen yet.
Oh, they're asking more questions now.
Oh, cool.
Why did I choose Methodism? Because I like the Wesleyan method. It's that simple. The Wesleyan method for Bible study is just something that appeals to me. And I can talk about that more at length on the next one. I just want to have some time to like go and dig into it and write down notes and make sure that I have all the facts before I start talking about the specifics. But I like the idea of using the Bible as your primary and like checking your biases with the Bible as your main resource rather than using like doctrine and dogma like the Catholics do.
There's not a good one where you actually see like him with it, but that's his car.
Oh, and it's the same car.
It's the same car I drive.
Okay.
What's very fitting? I don't know
your
if you knew
opinion
that
on cheese? Personally, I'm a big fan of cheese. I prefer my hard cheeses to my soft cheeses.
Same. Agreed.
Cheddar is probably my favorite cheese to just snack on.
I found out
cheddar.
I found out the name of my favorite cheese over Easter. It's Gruyere. Gruyere.
David McLaren says, "Can your next Weird Bible podcast be about David? No reason in specific." I wonder if it might have to do with his name being David. But yeah, look into the Wesleyan method if you're interested in different Christian sects. I like it.
Gruyere cheese.
Gruyere. There it is. That's the correct pronunciation.
Yes. My favorite, if I'm just eating cheese, is cheddar. But if I'm doing a sandwich, it's Colby Jack. Sandwich or burger, Colby Jack every time.
Oh, I like pepper jack on a burger. I like burgers.
Yeah. Sure, you do.
Oh, well.
Happy for you, I guess. No, Isaac says, any love for the milkman. Thank you. If somebody put a Wendigo in as a supervillain in a comic book, would that be cultural appropriation? I would say no, as long as you're faithful to the lore.
What culture would it be appropriating?
Algonquin.
I guess, yeah.
Here's the thing. There's, I personally, I wouldn't know. Personally, I'm not a huge fan of the whole...
God,
he's fine. Of, the way in which the term cultural appropriation gets used. I feel like it's way overused. And in many cases is used in circumstances where cultural appreciation would make more sense.
Mm-hmm.
Taking the Native American version of the Wendigo and portraying it faithfully in media, I don't think that's cultural appropriation. I think that's cultural appreciation.
Mm-hmm.
Especially as long as, you don't change it for your own purposes, and you don't use it to vilify Native Americans.
We don't like that.
The way I'd go with it as a fiction author myself is portray it faithfully, do it right, and include an acknowledgement about the Algonquin people. Most Native Americans I've spoken to when it comes to talking about their folklore in media, they like it when they see it portrayed, but they've also told me that it upsets them when it's portrayed improperly.
Yeah.
So that would be my advice. As somebody who has spoken to Native American folks about it, is as long as you're being faithful, as long as you're respecting the tradition and the culture and the lore, go for it. But don't, screw with it.
Opinion on mayonnaise is that it's good in moderation, depending on what it's with. Also, History Daddy's asking, what's our favorite British person? Just in particular, cool British person we like?
When we say British...
Somebody who was born and raised in England.
England?
Yes.
Specifically England?
Yes. British.
I have nothing nice to say.
Well,
I like you, Ryan.
Ryan, you're sweet. But mine, we all know mine.
Who? British person? Oh, Henry Cavill.
Yes. Good old Henry.
I think in terms of famous British people, it would probably be Tolkien. Although he's South African.
Is he?
Mm-hmm.
Didn't know that.
Yeah, that's kind of hard.
That's pretty funny.
That's kind of difficult to say. I like C.S. Lewis. Are
you just going to be pretentious about it?
No, I'm trying to think of people that aren't authors.
Just like someone born in the last half century? Roughly?
From England?
Yes. There's a lot of options.
I like
Stephen
I like
Hawking,
Robert
maybe?
Madden's work. Richard Madden.
I'm going to apply.
Richard Madden's Scottish.
I'm going to say Harry Styles for him just because.
Kit Harington. I like Kit Harington.
Kit Harington's great.
Yeah. It's not Harry Styles. Harry Styles is fighting gender norms and losing. Have you seen those outfits he's wearing? Come on, man. Oh, Russell's here again. Hey, Russell. How you doing?
I don't comment on fashion because I don't know enough about it.
I was thinking about having a villain entering as the modern Antlers type, and then midway gets bodied by a traditional one. Ooh, I do like that. I do like that one, T.L. Lancaster. That's great. In fact, I think that would be a really cool concept.
Mm-hmm.
Don't make either of them the good guy, though. Definitely don't do that. And be careful with your portrayal, because Wendigos, I've seen different portrayals. I've seen from Native American sources both that they are mindless completely. I've also seen versions where they're more like insane humans. I'll see if I can find the exact story I'm thinking of, but there's one story of some Native American men who go hunting a Wendigo that's terrorizing their town, and they cut off its legs, so it can't move, but the thing's still alive and it can talk to them and have conversations. It's just like insane.
Interesting.
And when they come back to check if it's dead, it's sucking the bone marrow out of its own legs. So in some cases, it's just pure insanity.
Yeah.
Which does lead to the possibility that maybe like this all developed, like if this isn't something that genuinely exists, the possibility that it developed out of a prion disease would be one possibility for the the origins if this isn't something that's real.
To be fair, sorry.
Yeah. I had a creature mimic my many dogs barks in the woods once, Northern Virginia area. Any idea on what supernatural explanation could be? Let me write that one down and get back to you on it. Can you pay me a pen? I will say there's gotta be pens that aren't still in here, laying around here somewhere. I don't know how we always end up dragging a new pen.
No. Are you stealing the pens, Archie?
If they were socks, you sure as hell would be.
Yeah, that's true. There's like 3 of them on the desk out there.
Yeah, I know. Okay. So
let's do a hard out at 8:15.
There is, of course, there is the Adlet from Inuit folklore, but that wouldn't be in Northern Virginia. Adlets are half human, half dog hybrids. That are interestingly, the story for that comes from this woman has children with a dog because she doesn't want to marry a man. Don't ask. Yeah, I know. So this Inuit woman has children with a dog, and half of them come out white, like Europeans, and half of them come out half dog. She sends the half dog ones onto the mainland to live, like in Canada, and sends the sends the white ones back over east to Europe. So.
Well, that was said.
Yep. That's the video where we started off saying this one's about Inuit people doing a doggy style.
I remember.
I
just forgot about the details of that one.
Let's see. All right. I'm just not even reading that one from you, David. Go sit in timeout. Go sit in the corner. All right. But that's going to do it for tonight, I think. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you haven't already, smash the like button.
Smashing.
Just give it a good old slap. And I guess that's that. Yeah.
Yep.
All right. Thank you so much, guys, and we will see you on the next one.
Have a great week, everybody.